Judy Chicago is a founder of the feminist art movement, a pioneer who with great persistence and perseverance broke through art world barriers that women artists continued to encounter. Her teaching, writing, and art challenged societal expectations of art, artist, education, collaboration, and women. Integral to Judy Chicago's feminist art pedagogy, embodied in her teaching projects and her art, are feminist principles of building agency and empowerment through content-based art that stimulates critical, reflective dialogue. Since 1999, a series of teaching projects with distinctly different contexts provided Chicago with teaching experiences that helped her to articulate a clear vision of her teaching methodology. Chicago avoids the central claim that her methodology is feminist art pedagogy, and instead acknowledges a variety of approaches to feminist education. Feminist principles, however, inform her approach. I've had the opportunity to study Judy Chicago's teaching methodology and present here an overview as well as some deeper insights. There are 3 stages to Chicago's pedagogy that were named and renamed between June and October of 2003. Stages that were decided as Judy and I discussed the best ways to describe the practice that she knew intuitively and that I had observed. The sequence moves from preparation to process and then to art making. Preparation involved sharing readings, research, and self. The dynamics of the group motivate the individual to set significant art-making goals from arts-based research. Chicago's approach involves guiding participants in her teaching projects to identify their concerns and then to deeply research theoretical, empirical, and aesthetic work related to that issue. This inquiry leads to the content of the artwork in a way that captures and sustains attention, is accessible to the public for contemplation, yet does not simplify the issue. In the process state, the facilitator and participants discuss individual choices of workload, media, and format, and how to navigate the constraints of time, space, and resources. The discussion concerns transformation of personal experience and research content into a tangible form. The facilitator builds a group support structure in order to help the participants meet challenges together. In the 3rd stage, art making moves from identifying content to material samples, sketches, and models of the final art forms. Chicago's teaching approach involves guiding participants to form a clear vision of their art-making goals to convey the specific content. The facilitator also guides participants to consider the question, who is the audience, and will the artist's intended meaning be clear to that audience? A multimedia presentation of Judy Chicago's participatory pedagogy is in the Living section of the online archive. The term participatory used to describe Chicago's teaching methodology is rooted in democratic practices that provide a space for each to speak and a community support structure in which different views are encouraged to be expressed and argued without retaliation from the group. It is an organic process brought to full bloom by the people participating in the art project. The coming together into a circle is both symbolic of the group generating energy to sustain and support the creation of powerful artworks, and a literal approach to including and listening to all who comprise the circle of the group. After receiving a Master's of Arts degree in 1964 from the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and pursuing a career as an artist for a decade, Judy Chicago sought to create her own art education in which female-centered content is valued. Chicago's own education and early art career fueled her search for a feminist education for herself through teaching others. Chicago described her experience. After nearly a decade of what I describe as male drag, that is, making art that disguises the gender of the female artist, I rebelled and sought to unite my gender and my art making by constructing a feminist art practice that encouraged, rather than discouraged, young women to explore their own experiences as potential content for art making. To accomplish this, I decided to retrace my own steps in college by setting up a program that would also liberate me from the professional constraints I had developed during my first decade of professional art practice. Although I was both aware of and frightened by the risk I was taking, I'm not sure I fully realized what a radical step I was about to make. Judy Chicago, dismayed with the patriarchal system of educating artists that she experienced in the 1960s, developed an art education that empowered women to recognize that their experiences could be a catalyst for art that critiqued the patriarchal ideologies that negatively impact their lives. Judy Chicago first redefined herself by remaking her name. In October 1970, the cover of the exhibition catalog for a solo show at California State College in Fullerton announced Judy Garowitz hereby divests herself of all norms imposed upon her through male social dominance and freely chooses her own name, Judy Chicago. Participants in Chicago's teaching projects also redefined themselves in the process of content searches for their art and engaging in other aspects of Chicago's teaching methodology. In 2010, Chicago donated visual and textual documentation from her teaching projects that spanned from 1970 to 2005 to the Penn State Special Collections Library. The collection includes materials from Chicago's teaching in 1970, in which she developed the Fresno Feminist Art Program at Fresno State College, now called California State University, Fresno, and at Women House at Cal Arts from 1971 to 72. Her gift is a unique and important contribution to the field of art, education, and feminist scholarship. The collection at Penn State includes the 1/12 scale model of the At Home, a Kentucky project with Judy Chicago and Donald Woodman that took place at Western Kentucky University in 2001 to 2002. This is now on exhibition this weekend during the symposium here in the library. The materials in the Judy Chicago Art Education Collection at Penn State documents aspects of her teaching projects and her students' work, much of which concentrate on issues not really addressed by educators and artists, such as sexism, racism, ageism, violence against women, and many other social injustices. Prejudice Basement and Rape Garage are the names of exhibition spaces that were developed through the 3 stages of Chicago's participatory art pedagogy in the At Home, a Kentucky project with Judy Chicago and Donald Woodman at Western Kentucky University in the 2001-2002 academic year. The Challenge Yourself exhibition in the Penn State Library and part of the symposium juxtaposes art installations from Women House, 1972, and with the installations in the house spaces of At Home, 2002. The poster-sized photograph of Leah's Room by Nancy Yodelman and Karen Lecoq in Women House is of an aging courtesan sitting at her dressing table, applying layers and layers of makeup, trying to cover the fact that she's aging, losing her beauty, losing her livelihood, and losing her identity. Similarly, photographs of Abuse Closet by Frida Fairchild and Diane Huff from the At Home Teaching Project convey advice on how to cover up abuse by applying layers of makeup. The physical space of closet in both projects that used a house as a site-specific exhibition venue became a powerful metaphor for women's shame about their own bodies. Judy Chicago's methodology is, in her words, quote, a model where the teacher helps to first make each student feel valued. By listening to what the students have to say, communicates the fact that what the students have to say is important, and that their experience is worthy of examination. And next, that in their experience is potential content for art making, which also makes their experience important. If you can turn your experience into art making, then it validates your experience. End of Judy's quote. Only by listening to our students can we gain awareness of what experiences have shaped their identity. These developing narratives expressed in artworks build resonance through the living archive that increases the historic value of the collection and its long-term viability as an educational resource. Listening and helping students develop feminist standpoints includes the vantage points of those who have been excluded from knowledge production, reveals the perspectives of those in positions of power, and explains and accounts for differences between situated vantage points. Strategies include exposing the unmarked, re-envisioning how marked, revealing what is absent, and critiquing prevalent cultural stories. I had the opportunity to study the Judy Chicago archives at the Schlesinger Library on the history of women in America at Harvard University's Radcliffe Institute in Boston. One focus of my archival research was to dig deep into the feminist community building and teaching methodology to how Judy Chicago has inspired women to go beyond what they thought possible and capable to do. I was also looking for quotes from Judy Chicago to include in an interactive timeline about Judy Chicago's teaching. While working on the dinner party, she wrote in her journals, more than once, a philosophy of sorts, or a strategy of how to persist in the face of adversity, of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, that she would make herself put one foot, and this is in quotes, one foot in front of another, quoted from her journals, trusting that things would happen if she continues and trusts the process. I saw her twice guide female students with this philosophy by literally asking the women to walk forward, one foot in front of another, to not step sideways, but to go forward. She walked forward too, behind the woman, stepping with the woman in support of the woman, building her confidence. This is embodied education. In honor of Judy Chicago and the dinner party, Through the Flower, working with Penn State School of Visual Arts, has established an award for outstanding educators who have developed projects that apply Judy Chicago's teaching methodology, or use the dinner party K-12 curriculum that Marilyn Stewart described earlier today in this symposium, or use other materials in the Judy Chicago Art Education Collection, and furthers the goals of the dinner party, that is, to extend understanding of and appreciation for the achievements of women. It is open to all teachers with preference given to those projects that most embody feminist goals. As part of the symposium festivities, Judy Chicago will present the first annual award of $1,000 and a certificate to the awardee.